So I'm going to ask you right off the bat to get the ball rolling on the third of our podcast, fourth of our podcast? Third.
We've filmed 3 and published 2. So
the
this
third
is the
we
fourth
were
filmed
releasing.
and the third.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
because the podcast that shall never be mentioned.
Yes.
That one was a bit of a disaster. It was a fun night, though.
The good night was worth it.
The good night was worth it, yeah, we should never reveal that one. Yeah, so in the third released podcast, to get it going, I shall start with a question to get the ball rolling. Evolution or Anunnaki? What's your opinion?
Not evolution.
Is that a diplomatic way of not committing to one pole or the other?
Well, it's not the one.
Sure.
And the other I do not have direct perception of. But yeah, certainly not the mainstream flag on evolution. Yeah.
What do you think the logic? Why do you think that evolution is the accepted view? Do you have an opinion on why?
Yeah, because it's I think the reason is it's a push away from God.
Yeah.
That's why.
It's it's like when I was told, when I had evolution explained to me when I was a kid, I can't remember, was that school or my parents? I don't know.
Little kid age.
Yeah, whatever, sometime back then. I do remember thinking that sounds rather unlikely. I wasn't really into it. But I wondered if that's because the religious view was just more appealing to me.
Well, it's a pretty out there view, combined with the Big Bang. I mean, everything came out of nothing.
Which is very Taoist.
Well, they're out there too then.
Yeah.
Out of nothing there was cause, which is impossible straight away. And then evolved into this. I mean, it's as radical as any of the religious views. At least.
Yeah. I never really encountered lots of people that didn't accept evolution as a view, I guess, until I started traveling around America because of the level of the level of religion in America, I guess, the amount of Christians
and the Bible
and,
Belt and stuff like that.
Yeah, because that's where all the traveling's done. I don't travel anywhere else in America, it's boring. But once you go down to America and travel, you've either got Vegas or the Bible Belt, and everything else is dull. So traveling through there, meeting all the people was really interesting, seeing how few people actually held that view of evolution, had a more religious view, obviously, but like creationist.
Yeah, more creationist
view. Yeah, as opposed to England, where I grew up, which is fairly godless.
Well, really. Europe has been, had God wash out of the culture for a long time.
Yes. And obviously there's evolution on a smaller scale. Like animals do evolve and adapt.
Yeah, of course. It's not the same.
And yet, if you discuss that view of creation versus evolution, there's very few people within arts like the spiritual arts or Qigong or something that would normally go against the evolution argument. Do you know what I mean? So there's like a...
Yeah, but that's strange.
Yes, because you have a contradiction there. Like, I'm going to pray to the deities.
But I don't believe in anything.
Yes.
I'm a materialist that practices spirituality. Yeah, well, there's this sort of dichotomy of the way people think about things, and their view doesn't align with their function and their practice, right?
Yes.
They live one way, and then they have an intellectual view another way, and then, why don't I have integrity? What could it be?
Do you want more whiskey? Have you... I was going to cheers you, but...
It's all right, I'll get ready.
Go for it. Drinking from the skulls. Like Vajrayana practitioners.
Yeah. The Tantrikas.
I've never seen that. You ever seen a drink from a skull? That's like the coolest thing about Tibetan Buddhism.
Yeah, I like all the tantric
paraphernalia. Yeah, me too. Well,
the skull of a virgin that died from a lightning bolt, or
is that what it is?
I don't know.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right, that's cool.
They have the same thing in the Thai, like magical tradition and everything. Yeah.
Well, that's good whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make me do that. Oof, I wish it was a cocktail face. So that's good.
Maybe you're just gradually acquiring taste.
Given to me by a very nice man who is training in the school called Josh, though he doesn't look like a Josh, but yeah. But yeah, thank you very much, Josh.
That's good.
Yeah, so I think that's a really interesting topic of debate. I think it's interesting, but I don't know if everybody else will, because I think that the majority of people who are in the Qigong world, meditation world, or whatever, all of these scenes, I don't actually know if they fully embrace the whole of the tradition, because
Well, obviously most don't.
yes. So, for example, in Bhutan, when I was there amongst the Vajrayana practitioners, very similar to when I was in ashrams with lots of Westerners in India and places like this, or even in schools with other Westerners studying Taoist stuff and things, that you had practices based upon this idea of, heaven realms and
Right.
deities, gods, and what have you. And yet, when you have conversations with them, because I always am curious about, you do a ceremony or something, or a ritual, or even someone talks about something, and I always wonder, what do you make of that? Like, I want to know what people's views are afterwards. And then surprised how rational and materialistic and, I guess, conventional is the word.
It's also psychology.
Yeah, but they don't see the contradiction and then going and doing that practice where they're trying to commune with a god or something.
Well, in Buddhism, there's a problem with this, where people think it's all psychological, right? Which,
yeah,
in my opinion, the sort of strata of the psychological has nothing to do with spirituality. It's You have to get it sorted so you can get through it. It is like the strata of illusion, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
The mind.
Yes.
You have to get through the mind, past the mind. That's the whole idea of spirituality. So they think it's all psychology. And then, what's your practice, buddy? Well, I do this mantra and I pray
Right.
to this deity, or I'm doing this, sadhana to connect to this bodhisattva, but it's all psychology.
So
Not just Buddhism, it's a problem in the Western interpretation of the old ways, I guess.
Yeah, it's certainly
Materialism.
Certainly the case in Taoist traditions that I've seen, and I guess you'd have a lot more experience than me in Buddhist traditions around with it. So what do people think deities are?
I think that they just think it's just superstition, or
Right.
it's like an archetype, or like something like that.
Like a psychological archetype
Yeah.
of... Right. I think in some cases they can be. I think some of the representations of some of them are combinations of different ideas, but at the same time, there is clearly a distinction between that and actual deities, actual heaven realms,
Totally.
actual...
They're not mutually exclusive.
God. Yes, totally.
Just because there is something that's like a psychological archetype doesn't mean that there's no such thing as deity. I mean, in the sutras, it's always, and the devas were listening, and it's not a metaphor.
Yes.
And all of the great masters talk about it from experience, right?
And yet, to contrast that, the majority of the people I've ever met in these arts who believe that the deities are speaking to them, normally something's gone wrong.
Oh yeah, that's
that's the big contradiction,
extremes,
isn't it?
yeah.
Right? Yeah, because they've actually reached that stage where they take notice, for want of a better term. I would assume is quite far down the path.
Well, the real version is far
Yeah.
down the path, and the version that is delusion happens really early if all you do is imagine it happening.
And very easily.
Yeah, if you imagine it happening all the time, then the imaginary part of your personality, the psychology, will fabricate it, and then you'll think it's real.
There's a difference. There's a difference in the approach then. So every time, if I've been in a whatever, don't even want to say tradition because it implies going deep, isn't it? But say I've been in a school or whatever, or engaged with a practice, making a mess of myself, and I've realized that it's superstition or
The
psychological
practice is
metaphor,
superstition. Yeah.
then I've walked away.
Yeah, because it's not what you're after.
Yeah, completely. I'm after reality.
Yeah. You want tangible practices that actually do something, not practices that only affect the insubstantial imaginary part of your personality.
So why would someone hang around for superstition?
I don't know, but they do. Maybe because they don't believe in anything to start with, so if it's all just psychology anyway, why not make it more pretty and have frills?
Maybe it's like adopting another group, like a cult, like you want to belong to something and this culture is nice.
Yeah, well, anything but the one they grew up with.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I get that. I'm English. I should have a bowler hat and a suit and twirl an umbrella around my hand, right? Or something like that. Or gypsy blood. I should be living in a caravan, but it's not my style. Oh. So is there I have an opinion on it, obviously, but there's kind of two issues there, isn't there? One of which is obviously if you're in a superstitious, well, from your view, if you're in a superstition or you're in a metaphorical psychological tradition, that would be one issue. But then there's a second issue, which is what you mentioned earlier, whereas the practice and the view don't align, like the models themselves. So if you're in a religion...
The lack of integrity, alignment.
You don't mean integrity in like a moral action kind of way. You
Well,
mean
by integrity, I mean
direction.
alignment. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Like your mind and action are aligned. Your views and the way you function is aligned. That's what it means, as far as I'm concerned.
That makes perfect sense to me, because if you're going to go into a tradition, whatever, say Buddhism or something like that, and you're going to engage in the practice, and you're trying to meditate to achieve jhana and then liberation, but actually the shape of your mind, the shape of your consciousness is around psychology. Well, then it's like two horses pulling in opposite directions.
Well,
right?
Exactly, because you have to go past the psychology to enter jhana.
So you're essentially strengthening, in a way, reinforcing the thing that prevents you from doing it, right?
It is reinforcing the veil, right?
Mm.
That's what they do. And then so they say, you can't achieve like cessation, the jhanas aren't real. Well, of course they're not if all you do is real.
Is there a view that the jhanas aren't real?
Maybe not that they're not, well, maybe I'm stating it a little strongly, but an anti-jhanic view. You don't need meditation.
Right.
When I say meditation, I mean jhana.
Yeah.
You don't need jhana. You just need awareness or...
Okay, yeah, I've seen that kind of...
In other words, you can't do meditation. And I wonder why. Maybe it's because you always strengthen the veil that blocks you from meditation.
In its defense, strengthening the veil sounds like a really good title for a Buddhist book, you realize.
Well, if I was a writer.
It would be like how to not succeed at meditation, basically. Something like that.
Well, I mean, how many modern meditation teachers
basically
say you can't do meditation?
You can't do it in what way?
Well, it's impossible.
As in, it's not an action-based thing.
Well, they say things like, the thoughts never sort of subside.
Right, okay, I get you. Yeah.
What? Well, speak for yourself, buddy.
I've heard that. Yeah.
That kind of thing.
And that's projection, isn't it? Because you get to a stage where you can't if you can't do it yourself, you assume other people can't.
That's what happens with all the arts. I mean, it happens with the chi-based arts too.
Very much so. Yeah, the idea of chi within these arts, that's another one. This is the ongoing debate, isn't it?
The fundamental one.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't really a Chinese art, as far as I can see. No, because even external arts mentioned. I can't think of a Chinese art that isn't focused around chi.
Well, or Indian.
Or Indian, no, that's true.
Some may be a more sort of mental way, but, the prana is fundamental too, right?
Yeah. I was trying to go through all the Chinese arts I've encountered, everything from feng shui through to I Ching, through Shaolin,
it's more extreme probably in the Chinese traditions, but it's the same basic idea.
And the meditation traditions talk about it very strongly as well. It's not like they're separate, because I can't think of many Chinese meditation traditions that are as isolated from energetics as maybe some other cultures might have.
Yeah.
Like Vedanta or something like that.
Sure.
Chinese ones aren't separated from it. So it kind of means that within the Chinese arts, not belief, that's not the word, is it? Having chi. I was trying to not make it too simple, but you know what I mean? Like having chi becomes fundamental to it, doesn't it? Discovering it, working with it.
Yeah, you need experience.
Of what it is.
Yeah. Which most people apparently have none.
It's no different from what we were talking about with superstition versus religion, except it's different. It's like materialist understanding, metaphorical understanding versus actual chi is exactly what they say it is.
Not just that, I think all the things in the old traditions are literal. The more I go into it, each year, I realize, it's exactly what they said.
It's almost like they didn't lie.
Yeah, it's not a metaphor. It's not a trick.
To be fair,
I've
never encountered a tiger and a dragon copulating within my body, which I'm quite relieved about.
That would be unfortunate.
Yes, it would be messy.
It doesn't mean there is no metaphor.
Yeah, there's imagery to explain something. But the idea of chi is obviously so fundamental, or prana, within these arts that it's...
It is the body of the work. It is the substance of the work. Like without it, you can't do anything.
So what is
the
it?
path.
What is it?
Well, it's not.
That's probably easier to discuss.
It's not
Mm-hmm.
a connected body. It's not the white tissues of the body.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a mental perception. It's not the process of blood moving. It's not
Breath.
It's certainly not breath. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's not momentum. It's not any of those other normal things.
Mm-hmm.
It's a substance.
Yeah.
It is a thing, not just a word to describe other things, because you were so ignorant, which is really the sort of...
Yeah.
The problem that I have with that attitude is, those... On one, it's that there's no integrity again. Oh, those amazing masters that could do all these things, right? Were ignorant, and they didn't know that there was blood circulating in the body, so they made up this word chi. Or they didn't know whatever, normal process, so they just used this blanket term.
It would imply
chi.
they were dummies, basically.
Yeah,
it?
but they basically say, their whole view is based on the fact that they're stupid, but you can never be like them. They were amazing.
Right.
So there's no integrity, once again, in the view. There's a massive dichotomy.
The horses are pulling in different directions
Yeah,
once again.
it's a problem. How can you ever achieve anything without that?
So maybe one thing for it as well is like, even without defining it, there should be...
You have to experience it. Like when you experience something, why do you need words aren't the thing, right?
But then there must be a distinction between an art that doesn't use chi and an art that does use chi, right? So all of the things, say for example...
Or a practitioner.
Weightlifting.
Right.
Right. Weightlifting can have connected body.
Yes.
Weightlifting can have breath.
Yep.
Weightlifting could have a mental perception.
Yes, and even recently I heard someone trying to describe a Neigong.
Yes.
And what they described was exactly how you breathe in weightlifting.
Is that breathe in, breathe out?
Yeah, something like that.
Right.
It's like, you make pressure in your abdominal cavity so that you can be strong. Wow. There's the big secret of Neigong.
And to be honest, if you're fairly competent in your body, you could probably do that in 10 minutes.
You do it naturally if you want to pick up something heavy.
My experience of anything that involves the development of chi, you can't do quick.
No.
No.
Well, if maybe someone can, but I can't.
So, yeah, building chi, I think there's another argument we've been discussing, isn't it? That people will say, if you're alive, you have chi.
Yeah, that's true. An amount.
Yes. Or there is no chi to build.
Yeah,
it's already there.
Right, yeah.
You have to find it, which is similar to the you're already a Buddha, but you have to find it.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not down with any of that stuff.
No, me either. Why are you not down with that?
Well, show me.
Fair enough.
If that's true, show me. Oh, I can't. Right, okay, so it's not true.
Can't argue with that, really, can you? Yeah, true. But I can't show you, but I can show you 55 classical texts that describe it and ancient scripture and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, well, like the other day,
yes,
we talked about it, and it was like, well, just because you have a modicum of intelligence doesn't mean you're intelligent.
Yes.
And yes, you have a modicum of chi, you barely exist. It doesn't mean you have chi in the practice sense. Not enough.
Yeah.
It's maybe not exactly the same kind.
There's a threshold you have to go beyond before it becomes apparent enough that it's
And if they're even
relevant to your
exactly the
practice.
same thing, I doubt it. But let's say they are. Even if they were, it would still be at least a sort of a quantitative thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
Which I think it's quantitative and qualitative.
And I think the thickness of it,
Well,
the denseness of it is what level it goes to. That Bodhidharma story, isn't it? The skin depth practitioner.
Right.
Going to get the order wrong. Sinew, flesh, bone.
Membrane bone.
Membrane bone, yeah, okay. So you have the different depth of practitioner, with the idea being, for those who aren't familiar, if you don't have enough, or you don't have much chi, you just have functional daily chi, health chi, whatever,
Yeah, that's
normal
skin
chi. Skin depth, yeah. So you can only, means you have enough to stimulate the nerves a little bit or something
Yeah,
like
so
that,
people
right?
get like the ants crawling, like, I felt something. That.
Yes. And then beyond that, it should grip and pull the tissues, and then after that, it becomes something a bit more chi.
Well, it's deeper. It's
Actually
denser,
becomes
I
chi,
guess,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amount, but it's also created via the ease interaction with the body.
It's clear to me that chi is not difficult to experience or understand if the method is correct.
And not just the method,
Yeah.
the vessel.
Yeah, okay. Would you not consider that part of the method? What do you mean by vessel, actually?
I mean the person.
So you don't just mean the physical form, you mean like mental form as well, right?
Mainly the mental
Mainly
form.
mental form, okay. Because physical form is easy to prepare, isn't it? Open it up, stretch it, release
I mean,
it.
you can, even before that, that makes it more functional, better, you get more, but you could experience it before that.
If your mind is right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there is the primary cause. But that's the part that's not right in most people.
So the question I have in general, for myself, I guess, and I don't know what you think about this, is I had quite early on in my exploration of the internal arts, one of the first teachers I had, not the first, but one of the first, had a very clear ability to teach you to find chi and use it and work with it, and to teach it, right? So then once I'd done that, it was like, oh, it's really apparent. Like, okay,
because once you experience it, it's like, oh, I know I have a hand. No one can argue it away.
Totally.
It doesn't matter how you philosophize or use science to tell me I don't have a hand. What do you mean?
Totally.
Direct experience is potent.
So my question is, if I hadn't met that teacher, because then other teachers I had after that maybe weren't so explicitly clear about it, but it was still always there, would I have stumbled across it?
Well, did every single person in the class? I can answer for you. No.
No, they didn't, no.
So, no. The causes and the conditions have to come together.
In fact, you're right.
Not just causes.
Thinking back to it, because I was quite young, I was in a class full of people with very clear, tangible experiences of chi, to me.
From the teacher.
From the teacher, unarguable. And yet they would still, in the evenings, we would all socialize in the bar, and they would still rationalize it away.
You mean they didn't have integrity?
Yeah, they rationalize away as psychology once again, actually, if I think about it.
So you self-sabotage. They're self-sabotaging.
Yeah, they were disproving to themselves everything that they'd experienced or managed. Yeah.
That's sad.
I do that, though. Not with my mind. I don't do it with my mind. Every time I have a good practice, I have to put some toxins in my body.
I don't know what you're talking about after this month of intense practice.
This is the self-sabotaging, right? Yeah.
The day we just finished, like an hour ago, a month of intense practice. What's happening? Yeah, Yin and yang.
Although I think people watching this would assume we just smoke all day, every day, actually. But
that's all right.
They can assume as much as they want. Yeah, Adam may have just finished a month of practice. Well, I was teaching in the mornings. Adam was doing more training than me because I was teaching. And then in the afternoons, basically from what, like 12:30 or something?
Yeah.
Just spending the rest of the afternoon practicing together without a day off. So this is rewarding ourselves with a very fine bottle of whiskey, and which I won't drink the entire thing of.
Not this time. This time we'll behave.
I know.
The whiskey's to loosen my tongue, so it's easier to talk in front of the camera.
What's my excuse? I talk all the time. I incessantly talk.
You're taking a blow for me.
Fair enough. It's good, but it's strong. I think I'm extra delicate after a month's practice.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
It happens. So, the sort of why don't people get the experience is the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, why don't they? How?
Well,
what? Why? Let's do it. Let's help them.
I think...
Well, they won't listen because...
Well, they don't believe in it. If you're fundamentally pointing in the wrong direction, that's not going to help. But
it's woo-woo.
I think the primary reason is their mental energy is dissipated.
Yep, I would agree.
Distracted.
Yep.
Externalized.
Which is pretty much the same as every classical teaching says.
Right. So they can't bring it in and saturate inside.
Why?
Because they're externalized. Because they're always worried about the outside, what other people think, what's happening in the world, everything external.
Yes.
So my whole life, I've been walking along with a friend or something, and maybe I dress a little eccentric, or like I'm sort of practicing while I'm walking or something
Yes.
like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, people are looking at you weird." They say things like that to me, and I'm like, "What do you mean?"
Yes.
They're like, "They always look at you like you're crazy, or they always whatever."
Yeah.
It's like, really? I didn't know that.
Sure.
Because my world ends 1 inch beyond my skin.
Right.
Because I'm naturally internalized, let's say. But if you're always externalized, you're always outside, you're always concerned about that, you're always caught in daydreaming, imagining, thinking, philosophizing, planning, you're never in, which doesn't mean lost in thought. Saturated in.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, the primary cause, Yi-Dao, Qi-Dao, is not there.
Sure.
I think that's the primary problem.
It's similar to when I try to explain to the people I'm teaching that being inside is also not just a locale. You
mean like thinking about your elbow?
Well, being inside is not just the mental fluid being here.
Right.
Because I can have my mental fluid here or have my mind inside this space, but I can also be creating another layer external through thinking.
You mean you're thinking about it, not saturating into it.
Totally.
You have to absorb into in a thought-free state.
Yeah, so thought processes become another form of externalization, right?
Totally.
In
it has to be awareness saturated in.
Like dreams to me are external.
Yeah.
Because you're still in a constructed form, right? Yeah. No matter what what is the locale of your mind? Who knows? But it's in a fabrication, right?
Yeah.
So if I bring the mind inside my body, but I'm still thinking or emotional or constructing something or...
Any fabrication at all.
Or deliberately trying to direct something.
Well, that's also a direct fabrication.
It's another form of externalization, right?
Yeah. It has to be the awareness saturating in.
And it can't saturate if you're putting it under action, right?
No, they're kind of the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So, I describe it as, like ink into blotting paper, right? So it's when you take the pen off.
Yes.
Right, that it melts in.
Right, okay.
With the stillness, not with the movement.
Yeah, I say water into a sponge.
It's exactly the same idea, right? Because it feels like that sort of takes time. It has an expansive melting in quality. It's not like, I'm thinking about it now. It's not
totally.
That.
And it doesn't get to your limbs for fucking ages. Does it? Like, the extremities are always the tricky bit.
I guess the
here is okay.
Further away or something. Smaller.
Like, the ink blot starts here or here somewhere. Yeah. Yeah.
So that seems basic, and it is, but you have to do it a lot. I mean, we've both done it since we were pretty young.
Yes.
So maybe as you get older, and you have more stress and more worldly responsibility, it might be harder.
It's not that basic, is it? Because what you're...
Fundamental is what I mean.
Fundamental. But you're already saying you have to have taken care of your psychology.
You need some meditation, not jhana, but you need some mental development.
Calm abiding.
Yeah, you need calm abiding.
Settle, or which is another thing that I think shamatha is more advanced, or more for a lot of people more difficult than it sounds.
Oh, most people can't do it at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they do imagination instead.
And even more basic than that, to be okay is difficult.
Well, you can't do shamatha if you're not okay.
Right. Yeah.
You have to be at peace with the way things are so that you can rest.
And I get that. I've had periods where I've walked in and I'm going to do some practice. And life's okay. Do you know what I mean? Life's okay. And I'm just going to sit down and do it. And it's all right. And then I've had other times where it's like there's lots going on. And even if I compartmentalize.
Yeah, go solve the problem.
Yeah, exactly. You can't do it, right?
Go solve the problem.
Because your mind is still externalizing. You're in that. Yeah. You're in that thing. So
that's what Sila is for, even though it can be a more fundamental degree than that.
Meaning morality.
You fix your life first.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time when I teach, I'll say, this work is, can you keep a girlfriend? Can you keep a job? Are you healthy? Are you calm? Like, achieve normalcy.
Yeah.
First.
You have to enjoy life first.
You have to be okay with life
first. Yeah.
It's like you have to be, okay with it, sort of able to accept the way things are. If you're constantly trying to change the way they are, then you can't go in.
So can you go inside if you hate your house, your wife hates you, your kids hate you, you've got a mortgage to pay, stresses you out, your job's shit, your boss is giving you a hard time? If that's your life,
I
can you go
don't know
inside?
from experience, but I would say in my life, when things are not right,
Yeah.
the practice is not as good, so I try to get up and fix those things first.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
There has been periods where I've been, I think there was one period where I had to live in a town I didn't want to live in.
Right.
Right. Now, my ability to accept and tolerate is not that bad.
No.
So I can have a certain degree of discomfort and I'm all right, but I really fucking hated this town, right, in North Wales. And if you've ever been to North Wales, sorry if you're North Welsh, but you live in a fucking arse end of Europe. Like, not even just like England. And while I was there, those years where I had to be there for something were the worst years of my practice. They were terrible.
You have to be content with the way things are.
I was not
so
content.
you can be content with the way things are by making them good enough or by being detached.
Totally. There's an acceptance threshold, isn't there? An attachment threshold. And if there's something that's too difficult to accept, you're going to have to change that.
You have to move one direction.
One has to change, right?
It has to reach an equanimity.
Yes.
Totally.
And that kind of brings me then to understanding why a lot of people struggle, because I just don't think a lot of people like their lives.
Yeah, I think many don't, which is unfortunate. But we all bear the fruits of our choices.
That's true.
It is. Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
I always had a great freedom that if something was difficult or if a place was to, I just change it.
Yeah,
I just go live somewhere else, right? Or
a lot of people don't, and they say they can't, but I don't think that's true. Sometimes it's difficult, but you can.
Sometimes people have responsibilities that keep them to an area.
Sure.
Or a lifestyle. Maybe sick parents, sick family members.
There are many things, but they're still choices. I'm not saying it's the wrong choice, but it's a choice.
It would be an unethical or difficult choice sometimes to walk away from those things.
Absolutely, and that would create another kind of friction, which would be problematic for the practice too.
Sure.
Alas, the sealer, right? But life is not easy.
Life is not just.
Or it's exactly just.
Yes.
If you believe in karma, it's exactly just, right?
Yeah. So if you look at, if I think about, I'm just trying to think of examples. I don't want to be too judgmental, but thinking of people I know that are struggling, and then I happen to know their worldview, and I know that
it's not judging them; it's seeing the way it is.
Yeah, it's not. If I don't name them, it's fine. But just thinking about
the unnamed person in the orange shirt that is.
The discomfort that they have with their life. It's like I know that people who use their training as an escape from their life.
Yeah, that's
and they'll literally say
escapism.
that. Like I'll go to the school for my evening escape or something like that, and those people, they're going to struggle. To get the mind inside is going to be very, very difficult, right?
Yes, but it's okay because these arts serve many sort of different levels of strata, right? It makes you healthy. It's time out. It's even a social event. Like not everyone wants to achieve mastery.
But then should they have an opinion on Qi?
Their opinion could be that they don't know.
Yes.
Anyone can have an opinion, but not all opinions are equal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's fair to say. I think it's better to accept that
you don't know.
I don't have the conditions in place that are required to even get me to the stage where I could experience or understand what this thing is.
Over the years, there's been so many practices that I've learned, and I've just gone, I don't know, I'll put that on the shelf for later.
I've had tons of those.
Yeah, I don't go, it's bullshit, it didn't work for me. Like, it's just, I don't know.
Yes.
I'll put it away. Maybe I'll come back later.
Yeah. There's been lots of those. Yep. Like other people journal. People like to journal and take notes. I never took notes on the things I could do.
Well, you can already do them.
Exactly.
They're embodied. You don't need a note.
I took notes on the things that made no sense to me. I couldn't do. They were too hard.
That's a good choice, I think.
Back burner. That was. It was like, right, I'm going to come back to that.
Same thing.
Yeah. 5 years later.
Yeah.
Open that up.
Well, hopefully you're a different being in 5 years, and then you see it from a different place.
Hope so.
Yeah. Well, if you're practicing, then you will be.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not practicing, you will be too, but in the other direction.
Yeah, you're always going to evolve a direction,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If change. Evolve is the right word.
Yeah, change.
Back to evolution.
Yeah. Devolution.
Yeah, totally, yeah. But not from apes.
Degeneration, right?
Mm-hmm. So with regards to Qi then, what place does it have in Tai Chi?
No Qi, no Tai Chi.
Okay, yeah, but why?
Because that's how you move, how you make power, how you do everything.
Totally.
Every single thing is, it is the mobilizer. It is the worker. It's
So what
Yeah.
principle from Tai Chi could you do if you didn't have Chi?
Oh, you could be yielding. You could be soft. You could all those sort of the principles. I hate the word principles.
Qualities?
Yeah, well, you know, people talk about principles like, oh, you go with the force. Well, so do wrestlers.
Yeah, sure.
You know,
yeah,
like every
yeah.
principle, every athletic person does the principles.
And that brings us back to the thing that there is a separation of the arts. That's once again, does it have Chi or does it not have Chi?
Yeah, internal versus external.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes the definition of internal very simple all of a sudden, isn't it? Because any description you have of the internal, whether it's like the inside moves more than the outside, or some people would say expansion rather than contraction of the insides, or
Yeah, see,
Whatever.
I'm not down with those.
well,
either,
whatever
but
those
yeah.
definitions are, it still always has to be. It comes down to like whatever just separates them comes down to again the requirement for Chi.
Yeah, I mean, it's driven by chi or it isn't.
Yeah, so that is the definition of internal versus external.
I think so, yeah.
So then, just pulling things out of here. Obviously, you know that I'm just kind of trying to toy with these ideas because I think that people want this information, and things that are clear to you when you have experience of Chi aren't necessarily clear when you don't. But still, people want to understand, and there's an argument for saying that people can't understand till they directly experience it.
Well, they can't.
True. But there's a counter argument that maybe if you understand some of the things that would lead you away from the direct experience of it, the things you're doing wrong, that will help them more likely
Absolutely,
in that
which
direction,
is
right?
like when I teach, it's all that.
Yes.
You got to fix your life up. You need to come inside. You need to calm the mind. You need to, stop dissipating energy. Like stop being a degenerate. Become. It's a big deal.
Being a degenerate. What's a degenerate?
Well, someone that watches porn, jerks off,
Yeah.
hates their wife,
Yeah.
whatever. Things that degenerate your personhood.
Or like increasingly as well. Like.
Well, we're in the degenerate age.
Well, that's what I mean. So many times you hear that
So normal is degenerate.
things that I would things I would consider degenerate are becoming normalized.
Which is why I don't like. We always say this. I'm like, that's not normal. It's common.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It's common.
My definition of normal is most people do it.
Yeah. Well, sure.
Yeah, it's more statistical than anything
Yeah.
else. Like like champion fighters that have been caught making videos of manually pleasuring their pet dog, which happened recently, or people in charge of great empires around the world that turn out to have smoked crack in the back of a taxi while receiving head
Exactly.
off, whatever. Like,
And that people accept that at all means that in their worldview,
yes,
it's acceptable, which means they can relate to it.
Yeah.
Which means it's degenerate.
Yeah. And you should not. I don't think you should accept someone in that kind of position with degeneracy.
No.
Because if you might say, well, everybody's human, but
Well,
there's
not
limits
everybody,
to it.
obviously. I mean, I'd call that below human activity.
Totally. So if you're going to have a position that is very small, one person in charge, they should come from. We shouldn't accept degeneracy from within those people, right?
I agree 100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you hope to master a cultivational art, degeneracy, as you say, it must be eradicated, right?
Of course.
So all the seeds of the imperfections must be taken out.
Yes.
Yeah.
The perfections must be developed. The imperfections must be washed away.
The standards are high.
Extremely.
Extremely high. Yeah. But if you can't do
let's start at the bottom.
Start at the bottom. Don't manually pleasure your dog.
Yeah, that will do.
Which, for those of you listening who don't know, this has actually come out recently that somebody in the public eye is into such things. Which is a little concerning. But I told you earlier, you didn't actually believe me at first, right?
Awesome.
It was like, these are the kind of things that come out.
When I hear things like that, it makes me feel like an alien.
Well, what happened? How did you get to that place? Like, what happened to cause you to get to that place?
I don't know, but like you didn't achieve normalcy.
But you couldn't build chi.
No.
Well, not a pure form of it anyway.
No.
Definitely not.
No. Because what an awful place to rest.
Yeah.
You can't be content in that space. You have to be happy enough with yourself to rest there.
Well, the mechanics of it as well is if your mind interacts with your body, the body creates a shape in the mind, and the mind creates a shape in the body. So if the two are going to interact, then they're going to prevent themselves from being neutral, right?
Well, that's why people look twisted.
Let's try and adjust my posture here while I'm... Yes.
Right?
Yeah, definitely true.
So, with regards to Qi and Tai Chi,
Yeah.
it exactly follows the depths of cultivation of the I Ching Ching,
Okay.
Bodhidharma's teaching.
Go on then, explore that for us.
Well, the first thing is
You mean I Ching Ching, the exercise set?
the process.
The process,
The
right?
process, which is the foundation of all internal arts, let's say.
Totally.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what style or method, or
So-
whether they use those words or not.
So is there an internal art that doesn't follow the I Ching Ching
No.
principles?
No.
I agree. Not one that I've encountered anyway, not a Chinese one.
Maybe if you include pure meditative arts as internal, then yes. But a Qi art, no. And we've already said that what does internal mean? Well, it means working on Qi. So anyway, so the first thing is to the Yi Dao, Qi Dao, saturating in,
Yes.
getting a little, starting to build Qi.
Mm-hmm.
The most superficial level, skin level, right?
Yep.
And then people develop more and more, and maybe they become elastic. They open more, the joints, the sinews, the Qi sinks into the sinews. You start to get a bit of elastic force, some rebounding. Level 2.
Sure.
Sinews.
Yeah. So you would say that a certain degree of Qi is needed for the rebounding level even?
To do the correct version, there's always counterfeit.
Because there's a
and real.
mechanical one based...
Sure. Counterfeit versus
Yeah.
real.
Yes.
And even the mechanical version, it's happening to some degree, but it's not the same.
Yes.
Yeah. And then deepen that, the flesh. So you start getting the proper ripples and waves moving through the flesh, and you generate actual jin that's not just your opponent's force getting rebounded.
Sure. Yeah.
And then beyond that, into the membranes, into the silk is what I usually call that level, which is
Sure.
the big leap, in my opinion.
Yeah, because
It's
that's
like
already...
the division.
That's already quite deep.
Yeah.
To get to that stage, to get that... unless I'm very slow, that was a big step.
Oh yeah, that's a big
Yeah.
deal. Yeah.
Yes.
The membranes is the big deal, I think.
Right. Okay.
And then beyond that, the bone, which is an even bigger deal. But the membranes is sort of the tipping point, right?
Yes.
So yes, in my experience, the Tai Chi follows exactly that process.
Mm-hmm.
In that order, you can't change the order. You can't skip parts.
It's not
That's
that
how it
different.
happens.
It's not that different from the mechanisms behind qigong movement either, right? With regards to mobilizing
How could
qigong
it be?
exercises, or there can't be any variation. Dalian exercises, qigong exercises. It's
Tai Chi is Qigong designed to knock people over.
Yeah, that's very true.
With an obsession with balance.
Explain balance, because I think people will have a different understanding
Zhongding,
of balance
Zhongding.
to you, right?
Yeah. Yin-yang balance.
You mean balance has a concept of like harmony or forces staying in perfect relationship
Yeah.
to one another, rather than I can balance on my big toe,
I'm not
right?
going to follow. Yeah.
That's what I mean, right?
Zhongding. If you might produce internal force without Zhongding, yes, but that's not Tai Chi. With Zhongding, it's Tai Chi.
Right. Prior to that, it's on the way to Tai Chi.
Yeah. That's why the 13th energy is Zhongding, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm. Out of the sequence, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So if that matches my experience with the teachers I've met as well, and the things they've done, and also my limited skill level, whatever, within the arts myself. But it's always frustrated me that I will meet people at different stages on that process. So somebody has very, very good rebounding, meaning that if you want, they've gone beyond skin level.
Yeah.
But then they will stay there.
That's the most common outcome.
It's like the step from A to B.
This cake's really great. I'm going to stay with this piece of the pie.
50 years later.
Yeah, I mean, the people that inspired me when I started
Yes.
are still the same as when I started, or maybe worse.
Yeah.
They didn't keep going because they think they have the Holy Grail. There's no humility.
Right, okay. Yes. I think that's true. That's either the ones who inspired me, they're either dead of old age or the same, stuck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't have access to like the most amazing teachers at that stage.
Yes.
But like good enough. Let's say they had the sinew level even, right?
Yes.
Compared to just normal external kung fu, it was cool.
Yeah. Yep. Sure. Yeah.
But then decades later, they're exactly the same, or maybe worse.
Why worse?
It's hard to tell if they're actually worse or if my perception has changed. But I guess you become stale, you get older.
Chi depletes.
Chi depletes if you don't fix all the fundamentals, and as you age anyway.
And the idea of having a fixed view would once again prevent you from going inside
It's
anyway.
extremely
Right?
stagnant.
It's easier to produce chi while you're still in the stage of wonderment and growth and moving in a certain direction to achieve something.
That
right?
is a big point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you need to have like a child's mind in the sense of awe.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have
Yeah.
any awe, you're kind of dead.
So as soon as you already understand something to its fullest, then
It's over. The awe's dead. Why would you
beginner's
even
mind
bother?
is
I'd be
gone.
bored. I'd quit.
Yeah, once you finish the book, what's the point?
Exactly. And so I
Mhm.
think that happens. I think they've got it, and then I just need to refine this one thing. Like, I would quit that day.
Right? Yeah, totally. I get it.
The awe is what makes it have life. And like, if you what is chi? Well, it is life.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than that, but without life,
Yes.
like you need to have the awe is life. Like you need some kind of passion. I don't mean an emotional state.
No, you need some kind of fire for what you're doing,
Yeah.
right?
Otherwise, it's dead.
Yes.
Brittle.
So the jump then, say that jump
The
from
unknown. The unknown's the biggest, most important thing in my opinion. You don't need to know. Faith is into the unknown. Belief is you think you know.
right. Okay.
Yeah, the unknown.
Questions are good, answers are bad.
I think the beautiful part is the unknown.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've been sat here for a month practicing. Not Tai Chi actually, mostly Qigong we've been working on, right?
All seated sort of work.
Yeah, which most people would find odd, I think, because
They think we're going to have a push hands battle.
yeah, totally. I think we're too lazy for that, but
That would be easier.
that's true. Be less uncomfortable. I think, but when a lot of people hear
yeah.
Qigong, they assume it's something very basic, right? Like Qigong is just
Yeah. Move your hands
thing
in a
you
circle,
do-
breathe in, breathe out.
yeah. Where I've consistently found out of everything that I study, Qigong is one of the most difficult things to understand to its fullest, and I think that that's been shown in our month of just basically trying to figure out with the limited, instructions that are available, like how this stuff works, right?
Yeah, I mean, basic is not the word I would use.
And let's be honest,
Extremely difficult.
and I think we've had some of the best instruction you could possibly have, but even
Yeah.
with that, it's an unknown, right?
Well, it's all the unknown.
Because an instruction is only pointing you in the right direction to try to figure it out.
The thing is, if it's beyond your level of current achievement, by definition, it's unknown.
Yes.
Unless it's just philosophy, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So you're leaping into the abyss
Mhm.
with all the practice. So it's difficult.
Yeah.
But if you think, I know it's just this stretches, it's just this, it's just mechanical, well, you can know it before you can do it then. Well, that's materialism, right?
But I don't understand how people can do that, because if I'm practicing and I have it's like, well, I've got it, I know how it works. A week later, it will disprove it.
Yeah,
Like the
totally.
practice will literally show you, oh, that was wrong. It's like, oh, okay.
That only happens if you're inside.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Because if you're not inside, you're only in thought sphere. You already know.
Yes.
You've already decided. But if you're inside and experiencing the unfolding of reality, which is like unpredictable and unknown and raw,
Yes.
yeah, it exposes you.
And whether rightly or wrongly, I think that subconsciously I have a desire to constantly disprove my own understanding of the arts anyway, rather than a desire to confirm
Yeah.
what I know.
Well, I've never thought about it like that, but I know that what I think it is has never been fixed.
Sure, yeah.
It just doesn't stay the same.
I think
It changes all the time.
I've made the error sometimes of thinking it's fixed and then
Yeah, but
been shown
but it
that's
doesn't
wrong.
last.
No, not at all. Like, fuck, wrong.
Same, especially a long time ago. These days,
Yeah.
I just realize I don't know. And I tend to embrace the unknown more. I think it's a positive, where before maybe I thought it was, oh, I need to know.
Yes.
I don't think I need to know anymore. That desire's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's something I wanted to explore with you as well. Like, I think that it's
Not
probably
burning.
not burning.
Not great today. It's the humidity in a...
Oh, right. Okay. Do you want a fresh one?
No, it's all good.
Also, shit lighters.
Yeah, it's all good. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No. I mean, to put it bluntly, there's no point even trying to put it diplomatically. Obviously, one of the things that I see causing concern or friction with regards to people's perception of this is, obviously, your viewpoints sometimes upset people.
Just a little.
So when I say your viewpoints, I don't even necessarily mean your viewpoints on Tai Chi, although any viewpoint anyone holds on Tai Chi is going to create friction somewhere.
I think my viewpoints on Tai Chi upset people, but not exclusively that. Everything that I utter, apparently.
So I'm talking about your political views, and your views with regards, which is okay to explore, I assume, and your views to, and I'm not pretending my views don't upset people.
Like, I think we agree on those things.
Yeah. I'm not excluding myself from this, but the viewpoints, the upsetting of viewpoints. So I think I've known you a while, and I've seen that what you, rightly or wrongly, I think that the viewpoints you hold are also a form of teaching as well. So that when you share things,
I wouldn't share them if they weren't.
So they're not concerned at the political situation of the world.
No.
Although obviously that is.
No, they're concerned with the mental organization of people.
So therefore,
or lack of.
So could you summarize what your view is?
What, politically?
Well, I mean, just on how people should. What is your experience of how people should be? Because that's what all human beings have views on, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's an argument for.
I think they should be responsible.
Okay, yeah. So this is what I mean. Because if you share, say whatever, we share stuff on social media, or we talk to people, or in conversations, or in classes. It's almost like sometimes we present, everybody does, you present the peripheries because you point at a particular thing and say, I'm not into this.
Which is just a 1 degree of a degree. It's like a moment, it's a meme,
completely.
It's not holistic.
But they should all come down to one root issue or a very small number of core issues, right? They're like the flowers.
Yeah, well, I think responsibility and integrity.
So, why? Integrity we've already discussed.
Yeah, okay. Why?
Yeah, why?
Well, because it's in alignment with reality.
Why is that important for cultivation?
If you are not... Okay.
And I'm not arguing with you. I know the view. I'm just trying to tease it out.
It's trying to formulate things.
Yeah. I'm devil's advocate, man.
When something's so deeply part of your personality, sometimes it's hard to formulate.
But I think...
I take it for granted.
But I think it would be beneficial for people to know.
I think that...
I'm all about benefit.
For example, you get what you earn.
Okay, yeah.
If you train properly, sincerely, and put in the hours, you get the result.
Yeah. Then you can fuck it up.
Only if it's not properly and not sincerely.
Oh, okay. All right, then. Right. Granted.
So... it has to be a fundamental view.
Yes.
If you don't believe that, you're not fit for the practice.
Okay, sure,
right?
Yeah.
Because you won't. The initial cause is not there.
Yeah, okay, I don't disagree.
So, in other words, you have to believe in cause and effect.
Yes.
So, that's responsibility. Self-responsible.
Sure.
So, if you think that someone else, the outside world, the big powers that be, the government, need to provide for you, you've undone your power. You've given away responsibility. You are not fit for the practice. That's one example.
Sure.
So I'm usually pointing...
And it's quite an umbrella for many of the issues.
Most of them.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Almost everything that I point at is that.
Yes.
I think that people need to be self-responsible and have integrity and bear the results of their actions and normal stuff. Not deny reality, not be insane.
Not be insane.
You can be insane if you want, but like at your own detriment.
Sure,
They're not the same. You can be whatever you want, but you will receive the result of your action. Sure. That's cause and effect. So if you don't believe in cause and effect, you're not fit for the practice.
Sure.
At all. So everyone that follows me online, for example, is interested in the practice.
Yes, I would assume.
So when I talk about those things, I'm showing them intentionally where they have a blind spot about their view on cause and effect and responsibility and integrity that is stopping them from being able to saturate into the body and achieve the practice. You can't have the two horses pulling in opposite directions.
And not to not that it matters necessarily, but my experience of of someone who's traveled like yourself, who's traveled around a lot, have met a lot of teachers. I think I've met more teachers within internal arts traditions than probably most.
Yeah, for sure.
But contrary to actually what lots of people think.
No, you
of
have
me.
many.
I met a lot.
Many more than me.
And some of them I spend a short space of time with, and some a long space of time with, some many years.
They all agree with what I'm saying.
Exactly, that's what I'm going to say. I haven't met what I would consider a master level practitioner or an expert level practitioner who doesn't also hold that view.
You can't, because that is causal for success.
Yes. Yeah,
it's completely causal.
And yet I think people would assume that the teachers are the other way if they hadn't met the people at that level.
Maybe you're right, but I don't know why. Because it doesn't align with cause and effect and reality.
I'm definitely right on this. I've had conversations with people, and they assume that these masters are going to be of the opinion that that taking personal responsibility and standing alone as an island and what have you is not what they're going to.
That was the Buddha's
advocate.
Last teaching.
Okay, all right.
Final teaching.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's stand alone as an island. Take yourself as an island.
Sure.
That's it. Be responsible for yourself.
Totally.
It's the Buddha.
Which is
not some bum in the hall down the road on a Wednesday night.
But wasn't Jesus a communist socialist?
That anyone thinks that is amazing. It's just, it's a bit like evolution and all this sort of push you away from the real stuff.
Sure.
Weaken the population. Make them not responsible. Make them dependent.
Sure.
Make them the slave nation.
Which is not great for cultivation.
No, they can't coexist.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was lucky with, even before, and not to take away from my father's level, not at all, because my father is a very good, accomplished practitioner himself. But actually, when I was younger, he was still learning too. So I was learning off him at a different...
And still is, I'm sure.
And still developing.
Until the end, hopefully.
Completely. But you know what I mean. I was learning off him at a different developmental stage in his training, because it was, 30 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
But even then, before I'd had the chance to meet what I consider master level practitioners, he was fascinated by Japanese culture, not just the arts. And I was always told
it's an extremely self-responsible culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was always told that if I was going to be good, I should be like that samurai on the battlefield that is an army. And I know historians are, well, actually, samurais were,
the idea is what
the archetype of it, or the whatever, that you should be like the samurai with his own back banner, like his own little military thing, with his own, like, a standalone unit that is not dependent on anything else.
You should be sovereign.
That was lesson one. And that was always something that I carried through in these practices, that I never needed anything or anyone from anybody. I never needed assistance.
That's my worldview right there.
I wanted to be the one that was capable of giving assistance to others, but I never wanted it.
Exactly.
Apart from teachings, of course.
Sure.
I've been given assistance and always felt by masters and felt very blessed when they did so. Whether that assistance was...
Meaning not entitled.
Yeah. Well, they taught me gratitude. The selfless gifts that they gave me taught me a level of gratitude that moves me to this day.
Same. 100%. Deeply moving. And not just moving emotionally, moving my character and my way of doing things, and my worldview shifts enormously from the example of masters, and that they are a sovereign island that is only an outpouring of benefit and not a taker of anything. I think that's where it's at.
Once you don't expect, then gratitude arises, right?
If you expect, you don't have gratitude.
Yes.
You're entitled. And so that comes back to the worldview. I think the error in worldviews is that you walk through life entitled to something.
Yeah.
It's a miserable state anyway. I mean, even let's forget about practice. Just at like a cultivation of the personality, it's not a happy place to be. Because you're wanting. You're left wanting.
Which is kind of pointed at quite a lot as something you shouldn't have, right? Desires, wants. Yeah. The other thing I was always told when I was younger is you don't deserve anything. You don't deserve...
Same.
You don't deserve respect is something that I was taught when I was younger. I have to earn it.
You earn it,
Yeah.
I agree 100%. It's out of fashion, I guess, these days. But everything is earned. Everything. Because everything is like worked for, generated via energy output or whatever. Everything, right? Everything. Moving your hand costs something.
Depending on the mechanisms behind the practice, it can cost quite a lot sometimes as well. Yeah, sure. Yeah,
I'm sitting.
internal arts, the least efficient way
I
to
moved
do
my
anything
hand
ever.
and then I had to sleep for 2 days. It can be like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. After a month of practice, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely fucked.
Yeah.
I don't know if even people hearing this will probably realize I'm way less animated than I usually.
Yeah,
You
I
know
mean-
me, I'm quite hyper, right?
Oh man! Like after this month of building
Yes.
energy, building chi,
I don't have any energy.
I am done. So it's not the same.
Yeah, there's a distinction there, isn't there? Because my personal feeling,
Well, building is tiring, maybe.
totally, I feel like I've got loads of chi,
Yeah,
but
you're
I'm
tired.
tired. So therefore, there's a difference between vitality chi, whatever. I don't know, vitality, that implies health, isn't it? Just
Maybe there's a difference. Maybe it's a bit more like earning money is tiring, but spending isn't. Or like lifting weights at the gym builds strength, but you feel more tired afterwards, and then later when you rest.
yeah.
I don't know. It's something like that.
They do feel quite separate. There's days when I feel really awake and days when
It doesn't mean the chi is
I'm really
big.
tired, but the chi is not
Yeah,
less.
yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know that for a long time. So there was this incorrect view, definitely an incorrect view that I had.
Like I'm buzzing, I'm full of chi today.
Totally.
Yeah, yeah.
So if I just rest more, I've got more chi. But actually,
Right.
that's not the case. You have to push. Because otherwise, if you drank coffee, you'd have more chi.
Yeah, or the most hyper person would have the most chi, but no,
Yeah.
they deplete a lot usually. And the more calm person actually will probably accumulate more.
So there's even a separation to a certain degree. Right, this is complicated. I don't fully understand this mechanism. Maybe you do. I don't get it fully. I mean, I'm kind of proving
I
it
don't
by
think
some of
I
this.
understand anything. It's all unknown.
Well, we can explore it then.
Yeah.
The concept between the health chi and
Practice chi.
practice chi, yeah.
Well, they're not the same. But because they're not the same does not mean that they don't have a codependent relationship.
Completely, because you do have to strengthen the health as well,
Yes.
whilst smoking a cigar and
Well, it's like cause and condition or something.
right.
The conditions of your health and all that will help.
So what is health to you?
Health is robustness, ability to endure life.
Sure. Yeah.
That's what fitness means too, right? Fit, able to do something.
Sure, yeah.
It
Okay.
doesn't mean ripped, it means capable.
Yeah. I've had people
Fit to do the job.
that come to do Neigong training with me and they look fit.
Yeah, they're cut.
They look strong.
Yeah.
I look at them and think, they're much healthier than me, and yet actually they can't sustain the training
That's
because
They're not fit.
not only can they not sustain the training health wise, you've seen a little bit, you've seen quite a bit now of how we teach, and I know that yours is quite similar, that they can't even endure the discomfort.
No.
So I would say that is a level of health they don't have. That's that robustness thing once again. That's
They're
what
not fit to do the work.
Totally. That's like not mentally robust enough.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it can be both.
Sure.
Or either. But yeah, I think health is that. Like a kind of toughness in a way.
Yes.
Like you're tough enough that this flu doesn't knock you down.
Without a denial of.
No,
I
don't mean like
the near enemy is a denial of
sure.
the sickness, right, or something.
I actually mean like a protective quality and
yeah,
strength.
yeah, totally, yeah. Like to be sick and then just like, oh, okay, I rest a little bit, then I'm fine, and then I carry on. Whereas other people can have the minor thing, and it's like a whole.
It's the end of the world.
Totally, yeah. Man flu.
Yeah,
Being the example, that's proving that most men
that's awesome.
just don't have any robustness at all, really. Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know about it until I saw a meme of it or something.
Man flu.
Yeah.
Oh, I've had it many times. I've had it many times.
I don't think that's true. I've seen you sick. You just keep going the same as I do.
Unless I choose to use it as an excuse.
Excuse. I'm having time out, darling.
Yes, yeah. It's like
it's the black lung.
it's like during COVID. During those 2 years, I had COVID more than anybody else. Like multiple times, every other week, I had to isolate for a.
Sorry,
few
I've got
days.
COVID. Leave me alone.
Didn't have COVID at all. But it was like, 10 days isolation. No, I can't socialize.
Boo-hoo,
Can't do anything.
boo-hoo, I have to like sit with my legs crossed for 10 days.
I have to isolate so much I can't answer the phone. In case I spread it
Bring it on.
via WhatsApp or something like that.
That's
Yeah.
great.
I totally took advantage of that period. Yes.
So, health and all that, and like Tai Chi people particularly that, as you know, I'm like, don't lift weights, don't build tension. For the beginning years, you need to realize what Sung is. Sung is like the opposite of what you're used to doing. It's a radically new way to function. You've been functioning through contraction since birth. Now you have to do the opposite.
Yeah.
It's really tough. It's like going cold turkey. Okay. But then if somebody's like really insipid and weak, I'm like, hey, come over here. And I whisper in the ear, do push-ups every day.
I know, and I've heard that.
Do the opposite of what I'm saying to the group. Because you don't have a body. You don't have any robustness.
Now, I've heard, right, because I've taught people who've been in your courses. Now, I know what happens is you will whisper in that person's ear, and I've done similar things as well. Do some exercise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Meaning you're a pansy.
Yeah.
And then what happens is they come out, and then they'll misunderstand, and they'll say, well, actually, I know the secret, and then they'll tell everybody, and then everybody starts lifting weights. Because they don't understand that actually the process is different for them, right?
Yeah. I mean, if somebody that already has a body that's athletic, that they like metabolize protein and they're okay at that strata, doesn't need to do that basic step that you're meant to do when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
But some nerd
Yes.
or something that's never done anything physical, now they want to do this sort of heightened physicality.
Yes.
Yeah. You need a body.
And that puts Tai Chi on a... Take an art like Tai Chi. I've never thought that Tai Chi is... Okay, this is a view that's got me in trouble. Okay, first of all, one of the views that gets you in trouble, or people don't like, is obviously the weightlifting. I assume it's the most asked question.
I get asked it every other week. I'm like, just search in the chats, like it's all in there.
My two most asked questions, one is about weightlifting and the other one is about sex.
Right.
That's the two most asked. Because most men are worried about losing jing.
Yeah, be normal.
Or just don't use pornography. And the other one is weightlifting. And with regards to strengthening, I think it shows that Tai Chi to me is not a beginner's art. It's not where you start.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely... how could it be a beginner's art? I mean,
so say you've done nothing. Could you start with Tai Chi if you wanted to use it for, I don't know, to take it to its full potential?
I'd say no.
I think even...
Apparently the Yang family did external arts when they were young. The kids.
Yeah, and I've even been to Chen. I know Chen is a controversial subject, I know. But I've been in Chen village and watched the kids.
You're a kid, you need to build muscle and coordination and normal stuff before you undo it to develop this radically unnatural process.
And neither of us started with Tai Chi.
No.
You did Tonglong beforehand, and I did Japanese arts beforehand,
And you're physical.
Yeah.
And strong.
Yeah. Those had to come first.
And you need to know how to hit and get hit, and like you need to get past all that stuff as well. But even if you're not interested in martial arts, you need a body.
And this is I think where some of the developmental stages come from. So when you see people that started with Tai Chi, which I know a lot of people do, I think they get stuck on Tai Chi as being, practical street defense Tai Chi or whatever. You just, what I mean?
Combat Tai Chi.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I think they get stuck there just because they haven't already done it.
Well, it's fascinating because you haven't done it.
There's nothing to let go of because you haven't yet built it up, and you can't rise above what you can't do.
Yes.
So obviously, because you have to get to a location and get past it. So because they haven't already done that work, they're doing it in Tai Chi. And then this brings up a really clear dynamic that they can't then understand how Tai Chi is different from external arts.
Well, it isn't to them because they haven't reached that signpost yet.
Totally, because they haven't done it.
Yeah.
So therefore, they will say things like Tai Chi is about center line, turning the hips, relaxed power, extending, centrifugal force, percussive force. Yeah, totally. But that's because they haven't already done it. So those things are still new. So they don't realize that Tai Chi is actually about
the opposite of all of those.
You've already done those things. You can't do the opposite till you've done it, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe you can, but I haven't seen it.
There's always an exception to the rule. Sure. There's some genius
which makes the rule, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
There's various political things you explore there, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably true, and it's definitely true in my experience. And you need...
So maybe there's...
It's hard if you're not capable.
So maybe then to counter that, maybe there's nothing wrong with making Tai Chi that external art for you at that time, because that's what you require. If you haven't already done...
That's fine unless you believe in your thoughts and you philosophize and you don't embrace the unknown and you decide that's what it is.
Or you teach.
And then you waste your whole life on that. No better external arts, like every other one.
Yes.
Completely. Just do boxing, it's great.
Yeah. I would say that as an external art, Tai Chi is probably the worst.
The bottom of the barrel.
It's pretty bad.
Look out!
I'm going to single whip that motherfucker.
I'm going to get you.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
It's laughable. I think it can potentially go all the way
Yes.
to very high levels that most people would consider way beyond Tai Chi.
What can, sorry?
Tai Chi
I see.
practice can take you to the end of internal development or close.
Right.
Ultimately possible.
What if you took meditation out of it?
I don't think you can get step one.
Right, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe you don't need jhana.
No, but
you need enough at least to saturate inside and have stillness and, to get the chi. Otherwise, you can't do Tai Chi.
So can you do Tai Chi without standing practice or static work?
I don't think so, no.
No, me either.
How are you going to get the initial access to chi and build chi? You can't.
I'm still not good enough
Right.
to
Exactly
saturate my mind inside whilst moving.
Certainly, suddenly.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I can to a certain degree, but it's almost like because
Obviously,
my mind
it's better, more profound when you're still.
Yes. My mind is already saturated inside from the static work, and then I move from that point, right?
Yes. I mean, step one, stand.
Totally. And yet that's disappearing from Tai Chi. There's an argument against it.
People are saying that, which is amazing.
I was really surprised. I've never had a teacher that wasn't into standing.
Well, that's because you've had good ones.
Fair enough. Yeah, that was always where I started. I mean, the teacher, one of the first teachers I had taught standing but didn't really understand it. So it was standing, but developing very little more than stamina and alignment. But it was still useful to do.
But at least you're still.
At least I'm still. Then the next teacher after this...
It's not for that.
But. No, I know. Yeah, but then the next teacher after that, I think 90% of it was static work.
Right, yeah.
90%. Everything was standing. I didn't even start doing the form for ages.
No,
not his particular... I knew another form beforehand.
I think that's correct.
Right.
Yeah, standing first.
So the form was created, in his logic, by essentially the static postures combined, essentially. It was moving from static posture to static posture.
37 postures.
Completely.
Yeah.
Which his view was that Tai Chi was originally just that.
I think that's correct.
Yeah, I do too. Because my development has been static work into forms, and then disinterest in forms back to static work. It's like gone full circle into the fact that I'm just happy to stand and mobilize those things inside. And yet people who don't follow that philosophy might say that I'm doing that because it's easier to stand.
Well, it is easier to stand in the sense of it's harder to get the same level of depth when moving.
I think they think it's easier effort-wise.
In terms of pain and stuff. No. Definitely the opposite of that.
If you think moving is harder than standing, you've not stood.
Yeah, standing's more physically demanding, more... It's more demanding and sort of puts more pressure on you.
Certainly mentally more arduous as well.
Both, I think.
Yeah.
But it's easier in the sense of you can get a higher quality of depth when you're not moving.
Do you have an easy sequential process of things that you could say could be developed from static work from Tai Chi to put you on the spot? Could you order them? Well, not easy.
What's developed?
Easily explainable. Yeah, like what is the sequence? Like, why do you stand?
You stand first to saturate in, Yi Dao, Qi Dao, then to access / build Qi.
Right, yep.
You need to access it to build it.
And build, you mean increase volume of?
Yeah, increase the...
Not
quantity.
Connection to...
No, make more.
Sure, yeah.
Make more.
The greed stage.
Yeah. Absolutely. Which apparently never ends.
Yes.
And then you have to descend the Qi and sink the Qi. Yep. And then it has to fill up.
Yep. That takes a while.
Yep. So I think that's the primary purpose of the static. And yes, you can do some mobilizing in static, but it should generate movement.
Yes.
It wants to generate movement, let's say.
Yeah, that's definitely what happens with the standing.
And that's not just the standing, that's it.
Because you get to the stage where you're almost fighting to not move.
Well, when the chi mobilizes,
Because
it
once
wants
it's
to take the
mobilized,
body with it.
Totally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That for me was one of the most fascinating parts of standing, when I realized that no longer, not only am I now standing, I'm actually having to fight to remain standing, and not through tiredness, but because my body wants to
go.
Yeah, it wants to go. It's like a motivating force from the inside that wants to drive you. And
Well,
it's
that's
like,
how it works, right?
completely.
Yeah.
I remember
the chi
encountering,
mobilizes and creates the jin.
when I encountered that in my late teens, I think, that was the most mind-blowing moment for me. Is like, oh, there's a movement I can barely contain that's being generated from inside.
I always tell them, fight it at all costs.
Completely. Yeah. Which you can't after a while. You lose,
no, but
right?
At least they will learn.
Yeah, it's like, it pulls you through.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think standing is for that. Saturation, descending, sinking, filling, mobilizing.
Yeah, okay. Yes. Yes.
It's a lot. It's not standing there and so that you one day become relaxed.
No.
Or like something like that. Or standing there so that you achieve a natural kind of skeletal alignment. No.
Well, the one I hear a lot, I don't believe it's about sending chi through the meridians.
No.
No, as in it's
What do you mean, imagining it through?
Well, I think also people think that if they hold this shape particularly, that it's going to circulate down the lung channel, up the large intestine, down the pericardium, like so on and so on. And
I mean, it doesn't even move like that in Tai Chi anyway.
It doesn't move like that in Qigong either.
It's the whole tubes and the body and beyond the body and big and no.
Yeah.
It's not little lines.
No, first thing for me to try to get people to understand is that your Chinese medicine meridians don't really apply in these arts particularly. You don't even need to know where they are.
Like, it comes up the back of it fills the whole body and beyond. It's not like a little line,
It's the same with
It's laughable, really.
There's an equivalent practice, I guess, or an equivalent error, I think, that people make is in the Shaodutian, the microcosmic orbit, right? Which is obviously one of the most famous parts of Qigong. I mean,
which almost everyone does wrong.
Completely, and I assume you heard of that very early on in your training, I did, about the microcosmic, partly because of Mantachia's books,
terrible versions,
And the idea of using your mind to guide it through something, once again, creates an external form that prevents you from going inside. Right?
Well, you don't ever get the chi.
Yep.
And what you do get is a delusion.
Because you can move it on your skin.
Yeah, maybe you get the skin level.
Skin level practice, right?
Which is, we call it the first level, but it really means day one.
Yeah.
It means you can't do it. That the first level is like no belt. When you rock up, you get a white belt.
Yeah, sure.
No belt, nothing. Beginner.
It's like the ultimate snub by Bodhidharma when he named one of his disciples the skin depth disciple.
That's rough. He must have been discipled like the day before or something.
Or he was a village idiot. It's like, well done. You've been here 30 years. You've achieved skin depth.
That's awesome.
He's the guy he couldn't teach. He's the guy who was degenerate and couldn't organize his life.
Yeah, sure.
I'm hoping it was metaphorical.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I feel sorry for that guy.
Yeah, it's rough, especially being around such a profound being.
Unless you don't believe in him.
Yeah.
Unless you don't believe in him, there's a whole.
It happens.
Not that it's important to me, but there's a whole scholarly movement, isn't it, that where they're trying to deny the existence of any of these characters. Chan Samfong is mythical. Bodhidharma is mythical. There's no evidence for him. I've even heard people say Buddha was not real, even though it seems like there's quite overwhelming evidence for it. And I've even heard Christ is not real.
Yeah,
there's a movement towards that as well.
Well, it's that denial of God. I don't mean God, just God, but like the divine, that humans can achieve anything. Like bring you down to the worst level. You're nothing but basic degenerate desire and.
Yes.
That's it. That's all you are. You're nothing. Don't achieve. Don't grow. If you bring people's sort of worldview down to that degenerate, godless, depressing level, well, it's over, isn't it?
It sounds miserable when you say it.
But it is that. Like, they're not going to progress. How can you?
I started as a anti-religious, when I was a kid, anti-religious, anti-anything like that. Didn't believe... I don't know if I didn't believe in it. It was just irrelevant to me.
Right.
And I was, caught up in a culture where I lived in the UK in the 80s that kind of rebelled against religion.
Yeah, you had negative connotations and stuff.
Yeah, completely. And all that happened as I went deeper into training is I became profoundly religious.
Well, it happens.
That's what happened. It was like, I remember the time, a day.
They were right about that. They were right about, what is this awe of the unknown and the profound life and the spark and the light and whoa. What is this? That's religion.
Completely.
Yeah.
And I remember the shock of, oh, I'm religious.
Yeah, but
Just
it
unbelievable.
doesn't mean Christian or Taoist or Buddhist.
No, I wasn't
Just religious.
No, I wasn't a structured, hierarchical religious person, but
But
I
not
became
political, in other words.
religious in that sense. And then I also remember the shock of telling people
Right.
within my life,
Yeah,
that had known me, and then in conversation, I didn't bring it up, but the conversation would go somewhere, and I was like, well, yeah, of course, yeah, the divine God.
My life has been exactly like that. Same. I
don't-
think if you delve deeply, experience will shock you out of that stupor.
I don't know how the practice could have led me in any other direction.
It can't if you actually achieve any results. Of course, if all you ever think it is, but I can like knock him out, I'm a tough guy, I'm fast moving, then yeah, it's going to lead you in that direction.
Or if you believe it's psychology.
Yeah.
Like,
Which is worse. You're better off with the tough guy thing.
yeah, it's true. At least you can look after yourself a bit more. The scholar practitioner can't look after themselves either, usually.
No. Not even the robust health, by my observation.
What do you think of the idea of a scholar practitioner as a concept?
I think it's more like or. Scholar or practitioner.
I agree.
Yeah.
So do scholars have a role?
Sure, but not in practice.
Yeah, I agree.
You're a scholar or a practitioner. And then ultimately, when you get the fruit of practice, you know, but not from scholarly pursuit, from experience.
And then you can really talk about it in your own words.
Exactly. And with weight.
I was saved from being a scholar practitioner. There was a time when, especially when I was spending lots of time in China, which I can't say was the most pleasurable period of my life because it's not my favorite country on earth.
No, it's rough.
And I became fairly good in conversational Chinese. I would always say my grammar was a bit shit, my tones were a bit up and down, but I could communicate with people. And then the next stage after that was scholarly, and I was like, all right, okay, I better learn all this. And then
But hold on, I need to stand.
Totally. Well, I was also saved by one, I didn't have enough time because I had too much practice to do.
Nobody does.
No. And
That's why
secondly,
you
I was
can't be
too
both.
thick. I just didn't have what it took to be a scholarly practitioner. All those fucking characters looked exactly the same to me.
You can't do both.
No.
Any pursuit takes your life.
Yeah. It eats everything else up. Yes.
So, if you want to be a scholar, it takes a huge amount of output, part of your life. If you want to practice, it takes an enormous part of your life.
Yep.
This month, I think the only thing I've done that wasn't practice is eat and pass out, for example. And that's what it takes. Not all the time, but a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to be a scholar,
Yes.
it's going to take also a huge amount of effort.
Yeah.
So no one has enough hours in the day. But besides that, to access chi, to build chi, you need to quiet down the strata of mental activity, saturate inside, have stillness, right?
Yep.
Well, what's scholarly pursuit? The opposite of that. So when you sit down, okay, I've done my day's work and it's ticking over,
Yeah,
you're
sure.
intellectualizing, right? But if you're a practitioner, when you're not doing anything, maybe all you're doing is just being, existing within, in silence.
Yes.
They're opposing forces. And you habitualize what you do.
Yep.
You want to get good at it, right?
Yes.
You can't just do opposite every other minute.
Yeah.
So how can they coexist? It's going to be very difficult.
There's also the other side of it as well, that even on a more mechanical level, your brain consumes vast amounts of chi.
Well, that's what it burns up the chi, yeah.
Yeah, but not even. Yeah, but I mean, even just like
Oh, yeah.
volume-wise, you know what I mean? Like every time I have to do something complicated, like taxes, something which to me is complicated.
Not only
enough.
complicated, but evil.
Complicated and evil, but filling all the paperwork, that it's like empties out the dantian more than anything else. Like I can't imagine studying to the level of becoming an intellectual. It would
People,
just
why
drain me.
can't I fill up? What? I've been training for years. Why can't I fill
Sure.
up? Stop thinking.
Yeah,
Calm your
yeah.
emotions.
At the same time, I'm really happy other people do the scholarly work, so I don't have to. So
It's
I don't want
fine.
to talk
It's
them out
just
of
a
it.
different pursuit.
Yes, completely. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with being a scholar or a practitioner.
Sure.
Or maybe even a scholar then a practitioner,
Okay. Yeah.
but not a scholar practitioner. Yeah. Like in some of the Indian traditions, they have the idea of the scholar practitioner, but they were all scholars that realized they got nothing out of their scholarly pursuit and became practitioners.
Right.
It wasn't simultaneous, like they try to make it now.
Right. Yeah.
They realized I've wasted 10 years. I know every Dharma. I have no experience. So they go live in a cave. They
Right,
burn the books to stay warm in the cave. Right?
right.
It's like
Okay.
that.
I like the analogy. Maybe people start a bit late quite often, so they don't have the time to do those stages either. Do you know what I mean? If you come into the arts at age 50, 40, whatever,
Jump into the practice.
yeah, it's quite late to start doing those things, right? Especially, I think, if it's not your inherent culture, because there's a thing like if you grew up in Nepal or something like that, and then you start to become scholarly about Nepalese history and text, but you're already familiar with at least the spoken language. Yeah, you understand you brought up around the customs and the culture. Imagine being an Englishman like I am, brought up in rural southern England, and then all of a sudden having to embrace this other culture. It's another level of complexity there.
And it's also something that you're never going to truly embody.
Yeah,
you can embody practice because practice is beyond culture. But the scholarly part is extremely cultural. So like you're always going to be a fish out of water to one degree or another.
Yeah.
But the practice is not built on culture. It's built on the reality of this mind-body mechanism, right?
Completely, yeah.
It's got nothing to do with culture.
Huh. That's why it's like when, maybe this is, it's not youthful arrogance, I'm too old, but maybe it's arrogance, middle-aged arrogance, in that I couldn't be religious, or I couldn't find religion. I couldn't find a connection to the divine, whilst, for me personally, whilst it was still filtered through all of those things. So
through the cultures.
Sure. Yeah, because I couldn't access religion I couldn't even access it through Christianity, to be perfectly honest. Sure. I couldn't access
it. But even more so through some radically different one.
I couldn't access it through Taoism or Buddhism or any of those things.
They're too remote.
No. Yeah. So religion only arose in me when my direct experience free from those filters.
I am the same, and even to this day I can't access it via those channels.
Yeah.
Even though I can access it via the experiential practice channel quite easily.
Yes.
If I try to tilt that towards the cultural version, it just dissipates into nothing.
Totally.
And it would become that I would be fabricating a personality, a falsity, doing my mantras or my prayers or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And wearing a special outfit or whatever.
The outfit's important.
Which would be taking away and be false.
Sure, yeah, okay.
For me.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe for someone else it's different, but outside of your upbringing, I think it's going to be very tough.
That was highlighted for me with one period of time when I didn't have direct experience of anything like the divine at that stage, even not even an inkling of, but I wanted it, I guess, and found myself, taking part in a ritual in a temple in front of a shrine where people were banging gongs and reciting things and going through, prayers associated with this particular time of day. And I think, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, why am I here? And I say, because it's polite to the person that wanted me to do it, but it had nothing to do with anything that was even slightly related to what I was after.
Well, I spent so much time in the temples, in the forest temples.
Yes.
And you chant morning and night.
Yeah.
Most of the day is private practice, so they're like the minimal for any tradition, the minimal amount of ritual and practice. Yes. But there's still every day.
Yes.
I never did it.
You didn't join in with it?
I sat there.
Right, okay, sure.
I just practiced, I'm not moving.
Right,
or something like that. Practice my asana, practice the breathing, something. I never even tried to do it. So after all those years, I don't know any of the chants.
Because you realized from that stage
already... It was
already...
obvious to me that this is not it.
Sure.
It was just cultural stuff muttering in some dead language. It's like, what?
Yes.
No. It defies logic.
I was sat in a Sufi temple in Turkey, maybe. And I was invited to take part in their ceremonies and their religious, I don't know what the word is, a religious evening, I don't know. And they had the whirling dervishes in there, which was really cool to see. And then everybody got really excited because this really famous Sufi came, who I have no idea who it was. But I met the Sufi, who were really pleasant, but, people were starry-eyed and whatever.
Man.
Yeah, and he had a bit of aura around him, I got it. Like, he had a bit of a persona. So I sat watching him, and they were reciting from their texts.
You mean you actually were reading it? Yeah.
Sitting reciting, and everyone's going with it, chanting.
It's
and
even
then
weirder if you're reading it, I think.
Well, afterwards I got to speak to him. I asked him, I don't understand any of the meaning. Is it possible to give me a rough outline of what were you saying? And
neither do we.
Exactly. He didn't know. He didn't know the language.
It wasn't that bad in the monasteries I was at. They at least knew it and didn't read it.
This guy had no idea. He didn't know what it meant. He was just reciting in a language that wasn't his. So I was saying, does that mean nobody understands this? It's like, no. If you speak Arabic, I assumed, in my ignorance, that yeah, you understand it. And he said, but he never even, he didn't know. I just thought, well, okay.
It's just not mechanical enough for me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Or maybe it's better, maybe it's worse to not understand. I don't know. You could argue either way, perhaps, but I'm sure the people originally would have understood.
Well, I've heard the Buddhist chants in English, and it's really weird.
Yeah, Taoist ones translated into English are really strange as well. The rhythm's wrong.
You can keep the chanting.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yes. So then alchemy for me was what was interesting.
Yeah, the mechanics.
Chinese alchemy, yeah. But even then there was a split between the two, because there was alchemical practitioners who, used qi. That was the idea, right? To work with these...
No qi, no alchemy.
Completely. But there is a school of thought that actually all of the alchemical stuff is metaphorical for...
Psychological states.
Psychological states, yeah. And I realized that the alchemy world, the Neidan world, is almost torn in two by that distinction, by that division. So there are people that I would consider scholars that have learnt in China and learnt in other parts of the world. They've learned alchemy from a purely psychological perspective, so that they believe that these things they're talking about are about stilling the mind, and then you still the mind, and that's, after that everything is a discussion of various mental qualities that arise.
Yeah, but why do you still the mind if it's not about something beyond psychology? So you can have a better personality?
I agree. I don't know. I've got no idea. So therefore, when the alchemy texts are talking about
same problem in Buddhism,
visceral or visual phenomena that arise, they believe they're metaphorical.
Right.
So it goes back to where we started with that idea of integrity, taken in two different directions.
It's just like this whole thing is written and projected and taught in one way, and then you go, oh, no. Yes, I have faith in that, but 1%, it's all wrong. What they really meant is,
sure,
balance your personality.
Like the visualizations within Vajrayana of red and white, red and blue drops.
Yeah, like the drops,
whatever that they recite.
Well, there should be a real thing. It happens.
Completely. Yeah.
It's alchemical.
So if you don't do it, then you're stuck in a tradition where you're believing in superstition once again.
Which is weird, because I'd step out of it if I thought it was that. Like if it was created by an all-knowing being.
Yes.
Which the Buddhists would say the Buddha is fully enlightened.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah.
From the stories of his cities, I would agree.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think that, which I do, but then how can you think that what he was saying was superstition? You can't simultaneously be a Buddha and superstitious.
Right. Because they're diametrically opposed to one another.
Unless what you've done is dumb down Buddhahood to something like, oh, I have a nice personality.
Sure.
Or whatever they dumb it down to.
But I told you I found the secret of Vajrayana, right? For example, how they made it work was when I was in the temples, and then they're going through, and I'm not picking on Vajrayana.
No, it's an example. We could just say Taoism,
Taoism, but whatever. Yeah. But I happened to be with some Vajrayana who are doing a lot of visualization, psychological practices, and things like that. And then I found out I was the only one in the room, pretty much, who wasn't microdosing acid. That was how they were doing it.
That will give you an experience.
That's what they were doing. They were actually microdosing LSD while sat.
Well, no wonder it's so colourful.
Yeah, totally. And I was sat there thinking, well, I'm not microdosing LSD. No. This is boring as fuck. And I realised, because I looked across and they're all in a rapture from this practice. I'm thinking,
yeah, but you don't need the practice. You just need to
yeah, completely. And then, that's what it was revealed afterwards, that there's this there's a movement towards combining
psychedelics and
Yeah.
But so in alchemy, they have this in Chinese alchemy.
Yeah.
They have that dichotomy between the psychological and actual alchemy.
Yeah.
In Buddhism, they have the dichotomy between the psychological and actually the supernatural, from jhana and up.
Right, okay. Yes.
Same thing. You actually work with spirit or you work with the mind.
Sure, okay.
So I guess it exists in every tradition. Experience versus not. Meaning experience of the real. I mean, all life is experience, but experience of the intended result versus not.
So here's an interesting clash as well, which I know you've seen. Definitely seen that. How about somebody will say, I pray or to God, or I visualize the deities, or I ask for blessing from the realm, or I invert fire and water, or I circulate this and the other, and then you go, I use chi, and they go, that's woo-woo nonsense. Do you know what I mean? Like the same people who will do those things will then accuse you of woo-woo if you simply say that perhaps there is a substance that can be built and formulated in the body that's a little different from standard functioning.
It's weird.
Which I'm more likely to take that criticism from someone who only does a physical thing. So if someone
fair
says,
enough.
Yeah, fair enough. It's like, okay, you've got no reason to believe in it, but
you can't say there's no you're woo-woo because you're talking about chi as an actual substance, which it is, and then talk about inverting fire and water and the deities and well, really, who's woo-woo?
I believe in God, you believe in chi, you're woo-woo.
Yeah.
Right, those kind of ideas are...
Because what they're really saying is, I believe in my thought process. Right? Because it's only a thought process. It's only psychological. Well, of course, your thought process is just as valid as any other one in and of itself. It's an empty phenomenon, right?
Right, yeah.
So there's nothing to argue for them or against them. That's all they are, thought processes. But what we're saying is, no substance.
Yeah. Which in a way makes chi more grounded.
Well, it's the opposite of woo-woo, substance.
Yeah, totally. Because it has to be, it's woo-woo if it's not actually
real,
manifest.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really weird. And I think it's a lack of integrity. The lack of alignment between their spiritual view, their intellectual view, their emotional content, and their action. They're not aligned, which would make you unhappy. And therefore you have to yell out to every other person and abuse them online.
Yes. It's back to that same thing again, back to poor alignment and poor integrity and poor personal responsibility.
Which is why they don't get access to the chi in the first place, to get an experience which would build proper understanding and progress on the path.
And so ultimately the end goal, which is truth, right?
Yeah.
It's like if everything's pulling in different directions, your chance of understanding objective truth is impossible.
Yes.
You cannot.
Yes. The small truth matters. Your word matters more than anything, and not lying about the way things are and seeing truth. Like, it's everything on the path, in my opinion. The Buddha, they say, in the 3 incalculable eons he was practicing as an unenlightened bodhisattva before becoming the Buddha, committed every sin, including murdering countless people and everything else, except...
He taught the truth.
Yeah. So true or not, I mean, it's pointing very directly.
It's not a good way to get away with the crime of killing
Well, he
somebody.
didn't get away with it. It took 3 eons, including going to the hell realms. And
okay, sure.
It's just a very obvious teaching.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's most important. And I always, coming back to like the views and online and posting things and people getting upset, I'm always like, but it's true. Like, it doesn't matter if you're offended by it, how you feel about it. You have to have a devotion towards the truth, in my opinion.
This is why it's such a clash with the world in general, without meaning to go down a somewhat obvious route, I guess, of contemporary politics or something, is truth is not valued.
No, it's the opposite.
It used to be valued.
No, but these days it's hated.
Yes.
People believe in their truth, right?
Yep.
Which is insane. That's the opposite of truth. But...
And allowing people to just fabricate whatever truth they want, and then it's their right to just accept it. And
so what they've done is thrown away the most primary, important, beginner, and the highest aspect of the entire path.
Yeah.
They've thrown it away in their thought, in their feeling, and in their action.
But at least it's made people happier.
I don't think so. But maybe in their mind.
As we can see from modern society.
Yeah, it's really working great. So yeah, I think that's a huge problem, and part of why don't people succeed in this kind of people butting their head against the brick wall with cultivation.
Yes.
They don't value truth. They deny it radically, like passionately deny it. It's amazing. It blows my mind every single day. It's like, wow. how can you deny reality like that?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's incredible. So there's you asked about my political views, there's my political view.
Mm.
Truth.
And one of the most, I guess because of the world I'm in and the world you're in, like I don't, it probably does not represent, the people we communicate is not representative of.
No, it's a narrow pool.
Yeah. I would have thought that one of the scenes that was most focused on objective truth would be the spiritual scene.
It should be. And
or the alternative scene, whatever you want to call it.
It is if they are sincerely on it.
Yeah, sure.
If they're not sincerely on it, it's not.
I've literally had every teacher who was at a very high level, no, every teacher actually, that I've ever had, all say that there is no such thing as subjective truth.
There can't be.
Yeah. But
Truth is the objective.
That's been one of their number one sort of things that they've outlined.
I agree,
Anytime
100%.
that conversation goes that way, you there's either the truth or there's wrong.
Of course.
That's it.
Of course. Anything else is a kind of insanity.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it is the definition of insanity. Seeing something that's not there, right?
Yes.
Anytime it's like it's not true, whoa, he's insane. Lock him up.
Yeah.
But now it's embraced. It's a sign of the Yuga, right?
As in you believe we're in the Kali Yuga.
Yeah.
I told you, I'll repeat that story that I told you, that I have a friend who is a scholar of Yugas, and is actually a practitioner too, but like he's interested in all that astrology, and he was telling me not to be so gloomy about the Kali Yuga.
Right.
And like it's, the Kali Yuga, if you don't know, is like the worst time. What's the description of the Kali Yuga? Reversal of truth and...
Yeah, it's the degenerate time.
The degenerate age. And there's a view that we're in the Kali Yuga. And he was like, no, don't be so negative. It's okay. Like, it's all much more positive than that. Don't panic. We're not in the Kali Yuga. I was like, oh, that's a relief.
All the great masters were wrong.
Yeah, and I was like, he's like, oh, it doesn't start for 5 years. I was like,
that's worse.
That's not comforting. What do you mean? It doesn't start
for 5 years. At least if we're in the thick of it, like we might be ramping out.
Yeah.
No.
He thought that was good news.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah. Yeah, so we might have 5 years of before it starts to get worse.
So I don't have a belief about the Yugas, really.
I don't know enough about it. No.
I mean, I can't perceive it directly. Right?
Yeah.
And I certainly don't have a mathematical formula or any of that kind of stuff about it. Yeah. But I see the signs.
Yeah, sure.
Opposites. It's an inversion of times. People, saying the opposite of truth, believing in the opposite of truth, the degeneration of society, all that kind of stuff are the classical signs in the text. They're there. They're right there.
Yeah.
And the highest masters have all said that we're in it.
And whether that Yuga is created by a planetary alignment or whatever it is, or that Yuga is created by a collective mindset that creates Yuga, who cares? It doesn't matter. Man created on outside. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's like when I've written that, or I had the view that society is not helpful for people's well-being or cultivation, and then people assume you're looking for some enemy in society. And it's like, it doesn't matter if someone's creating society or collectively people create society.
You mean if there's like a big baddie leading it down that path?
Totally. Or it's just a result of how we are. It doesn't make any difference.
No, it's what you do about it that matters.
Completely.
How much do you turn away from it? How much do you focus on the other more positive things in your life? Or how much do you let it disrupt your life? Getting too concerned about the initial cause of why society is like that is irrelevant to my mind completely. Sure. Just practically what do you do is the only thing I generally care about.
What do you do?
Go inside.
Go inside, yeah. Go inside and develop personal responsibility.
Yeah.
And in integrity in whatever you do.
If you want to get good at it, you need to do that. And if you want to have a good life, I think that, which I don't mean measured by the outside. Mm-hmm. A good life meaning one that you can have some form of satisfaction and be able to rest in it.
Yeah.
Then you need that.
A life that you're not bucking up against all the time with your discomfort.
Yeah, your own being, like aversion towards your own being, that is hell.
Yeah. Right? The greatest prison is having to live with a version of yourself that you can't stand, right?
Totally, it'd be awful. So I think that developing those qualities are, just for life, they're the most important. Mm. And you do meet people throughout life once in a while that, I'm not talking about spiritual people necessarily, that have lived a life of integrity, and they're happy.
Yes.
They're content within themselves, no matter whether they're rich or poor or married or single or whatever.
Yes.
Because that is what allows them to dwell in themselves. Mm. And then most people, the opposite, always have to go to the outside all the time, trying to escape themselves, because there's no alignment, there's no integrity, it's broken on the inside. I think that's the comment.
Sure.
And it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Even statistically, isn't it? We look up percentages of depression and
Oh, they're crazy.
suicide, or people on mood stabilizing drugs, or
It's
whatever. I know. I always think those statistics must be
They shock me.
exaggerated,
Yeah.
and then actually you go out into the world and
No, it's out there.
then maybe not. Maybe it is that bad.
When I see things like that, it's like, whoa, I must live in like a alternate universe.
Yeah, totally. And then when you talk to people, and I've been in the situation. I think I'm more sociable than you.
Yeah, much.
I spend more time around other people.
Yeah, I hardly there's only a few people I talk to in my life.
Sure, yeah. And I talk with a lot, and I chat with them, I socialize, and you get to a point where sometimes you don't want to admit that you like your life.
Because it would be like showing off compared to them that hate their life.
It's almost like bragging, I've got 5 Lamborghinis and 2
Yeah.
mansions
Right.
and a gold crown or something, just to simply say, I enjoy I like my life. Life is good.
Yeah.
You can't say it. Or the other side of it is they just don't believe you.
No
I've
one
had
could
people
possibly like their
I've
life.
had people that don't believe you. They'll say, are you happy? Yeah, all the time.
That's rough.
They do not believe that you're happy all the time.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, no, you must feel down. Well, like I have a blip and I feel shit for 20
bump.
minutes. Yeah.
I stubbed my toe.
Totally. And then I remember that actually everything's cool and life is great. But they do not believe you.
Yeah, that's out there.
Because it's not the norm anymore to be in that state. So if there's that many people that are just desperately unhappy with everything, surely that's an indicator that life isn't working.
Well, it's an indicator that the culture is broken,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Because the norm is the culture, like the trend of most people, 70 out of 100 doing one thing, that's the culture.
Sure.
So if it's making them all miserable, the culture's broken.
Mm-hmm. So is the answer more assistance from outside?
More responsibility.
More
A return to the old
self-responsibility.
ways, which produce happier people, which is statistically shown.
Sure.
People have become more miserable, right? You need to have self-worth through responsibility and value and producing things for society and your family and looking after others and giving and
Yes.
basic stuff. The crazy thing is me saying that.
Yes.
Many people would say that I'm a Nazi for saying those things. And you need to exercise.
Yeah. I've been
That's
called
alt-right because you exercise.
I've been called alt-right
or
a
you
lot
think the family is
lately.
wholesome.
Yeah.
Or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think those things are missing and they're being destroyed intentionally, which weakens humanity and makes people miserable and addicted to psychiatric drugs. And,
Yep.
it's obvious, isn't it? It's right there in front of all of our eyes. It's
Yes.
undeniable. It's undeniable. But then the very people it's happening to deny it. It's a funny old world.
Yeah. I'd never been considered right-wing, particularly in that sense, but always been called recently been called alt-right.
Yeah. Or you exercise.
Yes. I don't look like it, but I exercise and I look after myself and I take personal responsibility. And also when I teach, I try to get people to be able to be independent and strong of their own accord.
Exactly. Not dependent on the outer power.
And there's a lot of resistance to that idea.
There is, yeah.
Yeah. And I've even been called a white supremacist for telling people, which I don't even understand the connection.
There isn't one.
I don't get it. Like what? I didn't bring race into it even
There
slightly.
isn't one. I
Like
know, it's crazy.
I'm confused by I'm not confused by backlash. I'm confused by the nature of the backlash.
Yeah, because it's not in alignment with what you're saying.
Not at
it's
all.
not even in contrast. It has nothing to do with it.
No, I don't understand.
It's awesome.
Too many articles about eating meat is all right, or exercise is all right, or all of
So,
these different things.
In other words, they want you to be depleted, weak, drug addicted, dependent on the government for a handout, divorced, whatever else.
Fat.
Everything that's negative.
Yeah.
And that's desirable.
Now, this is what I don't get, is I have had that kind of conclusion right from when I was young. It's like, oh, they want me to be a certain way. Who cares?
Yeah.
People are too busy looking for who they is, whatever.
That's it.
Whether it's people making financial gain or whatever, So that means that I wish to do the opposite. There's something in me that's like, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to let go of that rebellion. And there's a whole spiritual scene where like, don't rebel, go with the flow.
Oh God, that's,
but it's like if I have a captor, I wish to escape.
I should hope so.
So therefore, I wish to do the opposite. So anything they try to tell me to do, I'll do the opposite.
Well, often I'll write something that's a little bit sort of push against the what I consider the forces of evil, which are like suppressing the human spirit.
Yeah.
Okay. And people will say, "Oh, I thought you were into spirituality. You're meant to just be." What they're saying between the lines is you're meant to be an indifferent zombie that accepts everything blankly,
even the things that are bad for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is really weird.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, what you need to do is abandon your connection to yourself, right?
Yes.
Forget that inner voice. Abandon it. Die inside. That's what they're saying. What is the Chinese word for natural, right?
Zhuang.
Yeah, so saying, don't be Zhuang.
Right, okay, yeah, sure.
Abandon it. Be a drone.
Sure.
1984.
It's a depressing message that people are trying to force.
And that's okay if you want to enforce that, but why do you think that has anything to do with spirituality and cultivation? It's the opposite.
I never met a weak master.
No.
Not at all. No. They're very strong in their convictions.
Yes.
Very strong, maybe opinions is the wrong word. But
their personality is definitely not weak.
No, not at all. No, almost intimidating. When you first meet them in some ways, there's like okay, this person's not going to bend.
There's a lot of juice there.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. And more chi means more resilience to such things anyway.
And the integrity and the alignment gives them power because they're not broken. There's no gaps. There's no hollows, no excesses.
Totally.
There's a fullness.
I mean, my childish rebellion goes further than that, as you know, because everything I do is based on rebellion, which is definitely an unhealthy thing, probably to a certain degree. So, for example, you know that I've gone to walk away from teaching many times. And
you mean to quit teaching?
To quit, yeah, and to walk away from all this, because it does bring a lot of hassle, so it's a lot of work. And there have been so many times, and then what happens is people will say to me, oh, no, keep going, and I'm like, oh, yeah, whatever. And then someone says, you should quit, or fuck you, it's fake, go away, or something.
Go twice as hard.
I double the size of the school.
Yeah,
that's it. It's like complete rebellion.
I've seen it many times. Yeah. I always have a bit of a laugh at you with that one. It's awesome, though.
So the criticism is what drives me forward, like something like that. And
that's the difference. I'm much more indifferent to people.
Yeah.
But you use it well.
Well, that's the thing. I could end it. I have enough control over my mind to go. I become. But then I think, well, actually, it's a
kind of fuel.
Force. Yeah, I may as well.
Yeah.
I may as well use it. It's like it's generative. It's creative, and also the result benefits people anyway. So
it's a stimulating force. Yeah.
Yeah. But it makes all the criticism from other people completely counterproductive for their ends.
For them,
completely.
That's great.
Yeah.
Drive you on.
The rebellious Hanuman spirit is strong.
Well, I can share some of the criticism that I receive with you to fuel your empire.
If I had your criticism, I'd be running the planet. The level I had.
Cool. That's awesome.
Well, I think we should conclude our month here.
Okay. It's been a good one.
It's been a good one, but fuck me, I'm knackered. I'm absolutely wiped out, and I've got pretty good stamina, but it's been a hard month.
It's big.
It's been a hard month. My next few days will be, teaching actually, but after teaching, which is only in the mornings, I'll be taking it easy. And I'm relieved that you're tired too.
Yes. I'm definitely tired.
I feel personally that hugely beneficial. I feel a lot more energy. Things have changed.
Yeah, I mean, the importance of the sort of intense retreat style practice and stuff like that.
And practicing with friends as well is probably something to conclude with.
I think it's huge.
Solo practice is really important.
Both are important.
It's huge, yeah. But definitely having someone to practice with that is, where there's not a huge disparity in the skill sets, like someone you're teaching or something, is definitely beneficial. You drive each other on, right? Which is good. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming over to Bali.